podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you in cooperation with the SJ Network. If you're a person who'd like to appear on a podcast, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
On today's episode of Too Many Podcasts, the Sherpa will be interviewing Danielle and Melanie, who host the Allegedly Credible podcast. They are doing quite well for themselves.
Not to brag, but I made 6 figures last year. I was also named the worst employee in the toy factory.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpolution. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. We would like to give you a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial, simply by heading to www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles of audiobooks and podcasts, including this one, to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now, the one and only Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, there is no 13th floor in the Sherpa Chalet. It's not that we're superstitious, we're just bad at math.
Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. Now, podcasting from the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, here's your host, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels of the Sherpolution. Welcome to Too Many Podcasts. It is the podcast about podcasts. And it is I, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa, your guide through all these podcasts here in this mountain called Podcastia. And we've got another interview coming up just for you with some lovely hosts. And we'll get to that in a second. And we'll also be doing some Sherpa Samples today, naturally. But let's talk a little bit about our guests today.
Who's our guest today, Sherpa?
They are a pair from New Jersey, and it's no secret how much I love talking to co-hosts because the chemistry's already there, so it makes it for an easy interview. But these two ladies are really interesting, Melanie and Danielle, and they are polar opposites who've been friends since college, and they do a podcast together. And we're going to get to how they got to know each other and how well they work together on their show called Allegedly Credible. And I think you can hear the differences when they're talking during the course of the interview. It's a lot of fun, and they are both super nice people, so I hope you enjoy that. And yes, we are following up with Sherpa Samples, and the burning question is, will Vanderpump Rules get once again featured in this top 10 list? Well, you're going to have to find out. So just stick around and check out this interview that I did once again with Melanie and Danielle of Allegedly Credible. Hello, Rebels. We are here at the conference room at the Sherpa Chalet. I remembered where I am today. Yay! And I've got two ladies with me who are the hosts of a podcast called Allegedly Credible. Lady Faye and Mello Supremo, they are here. Can we say your real names? Do you guys?
Yeah, you can say their real names.
Okay. So how are you guys doing? So Jersey girls. I'm talking to Jersey girls today.
Yes.
Yes. Born and raised.
I'm not born and raised here. I'm actually from Pittsburgh. And then I moved here when I was 11. But,
I think it's close enough.
Yeah, when people ask me where I'm from, I actually still say Pittsburgh for whatever. But yeah.
Now, how do the two of you know each other? How did you finally meet?
School. We actually met in a school that we used to go to, Brookdale Community College. Shout out to Brookdale. That's where we got our stardom, and it wasn't. I guess it's our humble beginnings, you would say.
I actually was friends with Mel's current husband first. And then Mel came along. I really didn't care for her that much, to be honest with you. She started dating my friend, but it's funny because I guess out of all the people in the world to start a podcast with, you would never think that it would be the person you didn't care for at first. But now it's we're thick as thieves.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was looking at your website and the way that you both describe each other, you don't sound like two people who would click on any sort of plane. It's just, just two very distinct people.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's kind of funny because that's how it started. her husband and then a few of our friends that are like in our circle were like, what do you guys talk about? Because like you don't have like a lot in common. And then I was like, actually, we talk about like everything and anything. Like, so it just kind of like came up that way.
The polar opposites come up with a lot of conversation. You'd be surprised.
That is very true. Yes.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've had this conversation with a couple of other people that have co-hosts. Sometimes when you agree on absolutely everything, there's really no flavor to it. Everybody's like, yeah, you think that? Yes, I do. You think that? Yes, I do. And then, there's no new ideas that are thrown into the conversation, but you seem like two ladies that we each have kind of like a different outlook on life.
Definitely. And I would say that, we're not afraid to go and let each other know, like, hey, that sounds ridiculous.
You have a button? Okay, here's the ridiculous button. I'm pushing it.
Yes, and it's so funny because like we are just like I am so like organized. I guess the word to use is just like I guess I'm a perfectionist and everything has to be done like a certain way. Like I'm very goal oriented. Everything has to be done like the way I need it to be done. And Mel is just so much more free than him.
I'm very free spirited. I'm very go for it with the flow. Like, you know what? It's going to happen. It's going to be in its own way and it's going to be amazing. And that like just this positive like light beam. And then Daniel's like, yeah, but the only way that we can make this light up is if we do A, B, C, D. I'm like, okay, yeah.
I can see after all these episodes, you definitely guys know each other and you know how to push each other's buttons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
we stay coming for each other.
And I think that just helps us like balance each other up. Balance each other out. Like our personalities, like it's like I help Mel kind of like become a little bit more grounded, I guess. And then she helped me become like, okay, it's not that serious. Breathe. Like, you can make it happen. Like, it's going to work. It's going to be fine.
All right. So how did you two come to do a podcast?
Well, it was actually kind of like I wanted to have a show of my own. I wanted to start a YouTube channel and I didn't exactly know how I would do it. I was just like, yeah, this is something I wanted to do. And Danielle was the one that was like, oh, well, if we put it together like this, I can really see this happening. And then actually, it was funny. Our first name that we were going to come up with was Purple Nightstand. And it was going to be like this kind of like sleepover kind of intimate show that we just talk about our feelings, but we kind of gravitated. Actually, no, I wouldn't say we gravitated. We kind of expanded upon that and just made Allegedly Credible from that. I would say that's how we got started. It was my idea. And she wanted to get out of her shell, and I was just like, we can do it. All about the positivity. Let's just jump in it, and then we just press play. Well, we press record, and that's press play.
It was,
you gotta get that button first.
It. She definitely simplified it. I mean, it's the same thing. Like she is totally like that, but it's like I really did not want to do it because I'm not like I wasn't comfortable with my voice. I wasn't comfortable with anything like that. But at the same time, I was like, yo, if I'm doing this with my friend, let's just see where it goes and whatever. But like, it was a lot of like, I analyzed everything. Like, well, I looked up so many podcasts. I looked up, well, how do you work? How does this do this? Blah, 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 blah. And then after that, I was like, okay, Mel, I believe we can do this after doing all of my research.
But the thing is that it didn't even start off in video. Because she was so uncomfortable. I was like, okay, so what would make this happen? Like, how could we work around you? And we started with audio. And once we got used to that, I was just like, all right, Danielle, we got to take that leap of faith now. And she was like, hold on, let me do another 5 hours of research. Okay, got it.
Now, your show is interesting because it's an advice show, but I mean, neither of you are claiming to be like a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that. It's just, let's talk about these things and we'll let you know what we think. Is that basically it in a nutshell?
Basically, I mean, that's kind of like what we do in our friendship, you know, like we go to each other for the problems that we have or just experience that we wanted to share. And we kind of just build off of that. What's your intake? What's your input from this? It's like, oh, well, I actually see it like that. And it kind of, that's how it works.
Mhm.
That's how our dynamic works,
Right.
showing both, both sides of the pole and both perspectives.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like her husband actually came up with a name for us because it was like kind of like, yo, and like you guys sound really authoritative and credible. Like you guys know what you're talking about. But then at the same time, it's like y'all ain't experts at anything. So that's why we're allegedly credible. Because it's like we act like we actually know what we're talking about. But it's like at the end of the day, we really don't. But it's up to you if you want to take our advice or not.
Right.
Yeah. It's real to us.
I guess, especially when you're doing a podcast like this, sometimes the fact that you're not the quote unquote authorities on these things, and you're really giving like off the shoulder comments. I mean, you're hearing their issues and then you're telling them what you think. So sometimes that's like that brutal honesty is more like rather than a planned response too. Yeah,
we're very real. We like to be raw because that's how we live. Like it's out there. I don't. Well, at least I can only speak for myself. None of my moves are calculated. So why would I go and do that for somebody else if I can't do it for myself?
That's true.
Yep. And then me, I'm told all the time, I'm so brutally honest, like too honest to the point where it's like, dang, did you think about the way you said that? Like maybe you should have thought about that before you said it because that could have hurt somebody's feelings or something like that. And I don't think about it. I just think like, hey, like that wasn't the smartest move there. And like
this is the truth. This is the truth.
Or it's like if I'm actually happy, I get told too, like my brother's like, oh, I feel like Danielle, you throw shade because when you actually like, sometimes when you're actually praising people or applauding people, it kind of comes off as condescending because it's just kind of like, wow, you finally did what I told you to do in the first place.
Congratulations. I've been waiting for this moment your whole life. But you know what? I think that even though we're so opposite, we agree on a lot of things. And that's what keeps the friendship. That's just what keeps the relationship, honestly, because even though we see it through two different lenses, we always find a way to meet in the middle some way, somehow.
Right.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
And there's no hard feelings, even though I get pissed off.
And also, I guess probably the two of you have a lot of different experiences too. So it probably covers a lot of ground for the people that you're talking with on your show.
Absolutely. Like I'm a mom and Danielle still living the single life. That's a big difference on itself because there's some things I'm going to go through that she hasn't gone through yet. But she's there for me just like I'm there for her. It's always out of love.
That whole balance comes right into play with with your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of getting the feeling that like when you're doing your show that there are no filters on, so that you're gonna respond. Have you ever like done a show and then like the next day said, well, maybe I shouldn't have said it like that, or
well, that's more on my side because I have issues with reflecting on what I've said. And it's funny, like since I don't have that ability, I kind of lean on either Danielle or my husband. I'm just like, you know what do you think about that? And then my husband would be the first one to tell me, like, Mel, that was not it. Like, you should have never said that. You need to watch your mouth because you're going to end up getting canceled. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. Or I get upset. It's mainly me. Like, Danielle's very good. Well, Danielle has been very good in knowing what to say and what not to say. And, that's why we have the disclaimer, right?
Yep, that's why we have a disclaimer, right? But I'd be like, I thought about that before because I wanted Mel to be like as free as, I wanted both of us to be as free as possible on this show.
So we know me.
Yeah. And that's why I actually put like this disclaimer out, being like we're not experts or anything, and like you can take what you want and throw out what you don't. If you don't agree with us, that's totally okay. Like at the end of the day, like it's no hurt feelings from either of us. When it comes to me though, like I notice we do handle things differently, because like for instance, like Mel really likes to do live shows and stuff like that, and for me, I can do it if I'm on somebody else's show, but with my show, like I can't. Like I struggle with doing lives. It's like I have to be prepared. So even though our show is very like we just say what we say, but I come up with topics and then I have specific questions that I know I want to be asked during the episode. So because of that, I do outline, and like I share them with Mel if she wants to see them, but at the same time, it's like the outlines are mainly for me, because I'm like, I want to make sure we stay on point and on topic. And Mel just was like, I'm coming in. Swinging.
I'm the ad-libber. Yep. Like I should really do like improv. That's how much. Yeah.
So that's what helps me kind of like be like, okay, because I kind of already think in my head of like, well, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to say? What is the point I want to get across from this topic? So I think that like help, like I said, it helps balance us out.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any specific episodes that like felt really powerful for you when you got to actually discuss these with people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were a few. So one episode that we did that personally I really enjoyed a lot, and we got some positive feedback, was like letting go of childhood trauma. We had Deb the counselor on for that, and that one was, I think it was like a good episode, because not only did we kind of like get off what was on our chest about what was going on in our specific areas of life, but also like we got to learn some new things and new tools for ourselves to use as well. And a lot of people who did listen to the episode like gave some really good feedback on it about like how they felt like and how important letting go of that trauma is. So yeah, that was a really good episode. Another episode that's extremely popular that we didn't know was going to be as popular as it was is Do Dads Still Matter in Children's Lives? That one had Mel's husband on, and that one, like, we were just like, oh, I think Mel started the topic was like, would you have a baby by yourself without a father? Like
would you choose, like, would you purposely go and try to have a baby without,
not the father being in the baby's life
in the home? Right. And it made no sense. And the only reason why I wanted to do that topic is because of another show that my husband and I were watching on YouTube. And I was just like, I couldn't imagine purposely wanting to put myself in this position. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And then me as a single person who does want kids, it was just like a good question for us to talk about and chop it up. And I think that episode got a lot, like I said, it got bigger than we even expected, like on all our platforms. Like that is like the number one episode from other than our very first episode. Like that was like the biggest episode that happened, and that was the last episode we did. So we were just kind of like shocked at how big and how fast that one grew.
It's funny that like you do your first episode, and like when you listen back, you hear all the like, oh, I got to fix that. I should have fixed that. I shouldn't have said that. And then like after a while, you kind of find your footing, and you don't even think about it. You just kind of go on autopilot.
Yeah.
You know how you guys work off of each other, and there's not going to be too many left field surprises, and if there are, you know how to deal with them.
Right.
It's actually funnier when it is a left field surprise. You see the reaction is like, what? What are you getting at?
Yes, that's true. Like sometimes like the left field surprises are really like I think the one that really got me when we were talking about like I think the first episode of season 3, Sexy in Our Own Skin. Like we did a video for that one. Like this was when we put the video completely, and that one threw me for a loop because like Mel said something and you could see my face, and that was a lot of people that enjoy seeing our faces too. That was one reason why we went to video. So many people like, I can hear you guys laughing, whatever, but I want to see like your reactions as you're doing it. And it was just like, okay. So, because they were like, we know that sometimes Danielle was looking at Mel like, what are you talking about?
They want to see the eye roll, right?
Right. And now they can actually put the face to like what their imagination was leading on. And I think I remember what I said. I think it was talking about like the flat butt thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You were talking about there were a few things you said in that episode that you could just see me be like, what? But it was just like funny. And I think that like and I think that's what really grows. Like sometimes I love Mel's like just unfilteredness because it really like does make me pause and it makes me have to be like, what did you just say? How are we doing this? But one thing I wanted to point out too, as you said, from the first episode to like the latest episode, I love to see our growth because our first episode, like literally, we did it in the bedroom. Like, was it like?
We were so at the time I was in between houses. I just moved out of my apartment and I was waiting for that house that we currently bought to be finished and ready. We were living at my husband's mom's house and we were sitting on the bed and we had the phone in hand and remember when we recorded the whole thing and nothing was there and I was just like, you know what? It ain't ready. It ain't worth it.
Nothing was there. And then we had to do it again. And it was like funny. She had her kid with her. Like, I think the first time her kid wasn't with her. The second time the kid was with her. So we're like,
all you hear is mad stuff going on in the background. I was just like, I don't think this is our thing. And then we just
and now we have a whole sound engineer and like to go to video.
Shout out to you, Sierra.
Yeah. And like I learned how to do all the editing and all that other stuff too. So it's like to see the growth from the first season where it's like we're sharing one mic, trying to make sure we both can both hear. Versus
God.
Now, like we have separate
voice is so overpowering compared to my like it. Oh my God! Like the growth on that, but but you know what? That's another parallel. Like, cause she pushed me to go and what's the word?
Project.
Yeah, project. Because I was getting overshadowed. But that's how our relationship works too. You know, we push each other to get out of our comfort zone.
There you go. And you get recorded proof of it when it's all done.
Mm-hmm. Right? He's like, I remember in episode 7 in this season when you said, and then I'd be like, well, Danielle, how are you feeling now? It's like, well, I guess that's another episode.
Did you ever think of like revisiting any of your previous episodes?
Yep. Right, Danielle.
Yes, we actually just did that recently. So we're getting ready for season 4 now. And season 4 was actually supposed to be in September, but like we had a lot going on between the two of us. So we had to push it to like now April. Now. And it's funny because season 1, we had this whole episode where we had a friend on. It was like a whole debate, like, oh, would you be friends with your ex? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. There's no problem with that. And everybody's like, me and
our friend were just looking at her like, she don't even know. She don't even know.
So now,
but she gonna learn one day.
Yes. And so now, after experience I just had recently, we actually just revisited it on like the first episode of the new season. And I'm like, yeah, I changed my mind. Like, that's why we're allegedly credible. I gave you a thought, and now I'm like, oh no, don't do it. Don't do it.
And it's accountability. I think that was I think it's on our website. Like one of the things that I wanted to work on was being able to have record of mistakes so that I can grow and be more accountable, because I am the type of person that likes to hide and shy away from conflict. So not only is this show helping others, it's also helping ourselves grow into, new versions of ourselves every episode, every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can definitely agree with that, because it's funny now how I was very shy, very timid. I didn't really like to be seen in the spotlight, whatever. But then from this show and doing this, I am totally different now. Like, I don't mind talking to people. I actually now enjoy meeting new people. And on top of that, I'm more putting myself out there. I also sing and I do art and stuff. So before, I would have never ever thought about like releasing a song or anything like that. But now that I created this platform with Mel, I'm way more confident in my abilities and sharing those abilities. And I think like I just had to do it with my friend first before I could actually be like, hey, you know what? I can do this. Like, So
Yeah.
I feel like we've both grown in a lot of different ways. Mel has grown in a lot with time management because like
You saw I was the first one on the Zoom call. I was on 20 minutes early, you know what I mean? I'm gonna make these deadlines.
So yeah, it's helped us more than just like with like it's definitely helped us within our personal lives and just with our own self growth and our own self worth too. So even if like for me personally, I'm like even if we never like made it to like a really big broad audience, I feel like it has done more for ourselves than anything else. So I would probably just continue doing it just for that personal and inner work growth that we've both been doing.
Yeah. And that must really be the icing on the cake, and I'm sure like with like the feedback that you're getting from your listeners and stuff like that. And did it probably feel weird when it must have dawned on you like, wow, I said something that actually made a difference in this person's life, that just like some unsolicited advice, just like coming right off the shoulder?
When people actually started recognizing us and talking about like, oh, I saw you in this episode, and it was kind of invigorating. It was, I don't even know the word. It was self-affirming because I mean, obviously you hope that people watch your show, but it's the internet. There's a whole mess load. There's billions and trillions of videos that you could be watching. And it's not even about like your inner circle. Like obviously your friends and family are going to try to attempt to support you. But it's like when I remember we were in a meeting and we were looking about like how far our reach was. People in like internationally are watching our stuff. I was like, what? How? Why? But yeah, it's really touching.
Yeah, it's interesting because like some of our episodes that like don't have like the numbers, like the higher numbers, kind of like are interesting because those are the ones where we've got the people who have listened to them have actually like given us really in-depth feedback on. Like there's one that we did like feeling sex. No, not that one. Body insecurities, I think we did. And I had somebody reach out to me personally, and that's like one of our lower number episodes, and reach out to me personally was like, thank you for talking about your weight issues and how uncomfortable you felt in your skin at the time, because it's like, that's how I always felt. And to hear somebody else talk about it in like such a raw and honest way, I really appreciate that. So for me, it's like, yeah, that might not have been one of our higher episodes, but like for that one person to come and say like, hey, that really helped me feel better about myself, I'm like, that was worth it to me. There was another one that we did where we were talking about love languages.
The stage the God says.
Yeah. And I had I had like a few other people reach out to me talking about like, it made me really reevaluate my love languages and like how I react with a partner and stuff like that. And that really felt really good to me too, because it's just like, wow, like not only because, in the episode, I talk about some of my intimacy issues. So it's like, wow, not only am I dealing with my own intimacy issues, somebody else's. And just because I spoke about it, they feel more comfortable talking about it amongst themselves. So to me, that is actually really powerful. It's actually really humbling in a lot of different ways, because it's like you never know what anybody else is going through. Right. And like I said, it's like, yeah, it's of course we would like more listeners or more whatever, but I do appreciate the people who actually do take the time out to listen and take the time out to comment, because it's just like, it's hard to get people to comment. A lot of people will be like, oh yeah, like, or like, especially in public, because a lot of people will be like in private, oh, you're doing a great job. It was like, yo, can you write a review so other people can see how great we're doing? And it's just like, yeah, okay, sure. But then they don't do it.
No, I forgot. But keep doing you. Like it's still invigorating. Like it's so liberating to be an advocate when, I mean, you didn't even know that you were in that position in the first place. Like, I'm just literally just telling you my story, and this is how I see things working in for me. And if what I am doing works for you, then more power to you. And if it isn't, I still want to know what happened, you know? And I don't think that you should feel shame. Like, don't try to do me. And I have to tell myself to me, like, don't try to do them either. Like, nobody's life is perfect. We're all trying to like do the best that we can. But yeah, I would say it's a very liberating / humbling experience, because sometimes you do get people coming at you out of left field trying to judge you in the way that you think. And that's publicity. Like, I'm not saying that it's a good thing that I'm receiving it, but at least I'm touching you in a way that you feel like you need to go and speak your mind, because that's all I want.
Sure.
Right. Agree.
All right. So are there any other podcasts that you guys like to listen to when you're not doing your own?
Oh, there's so many. I'm gonna let Mel go first.
Actually, I keep getting notifications for a podcast that I like to watch. I like to watch New Father Chronicles, because I think that the dad on there is really funny. And I also like to watch Belief in Fatherhood. I don't know why. Like, maybe it's like a sick obsession that I have with fathers, but or maybe it's the fact that I have kids and I just like seeing dads with their daughters, just like Danielle does. But I also like to watch random order podcasts when I just feel like watching something silly and ridiculous. Yeah, I think that's and that Tony Baker podcast that he does. Shoot, I can't remember what that one was. Something like comedic. I don't know, whatever. But I like watching
I'll put it in the show
Tony
notes,
Baker.
don't worry.
Yeah, Tony Baker's podcast is a really good one too.
Okay, Danielle.
So my podcast tastes are a little different. I listen to a lot of like self-help, self-growth. So I listen to there's a one called Woman Evolve. I listen to I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's like the guy wrote a book. I think it's like Shawn Stevenson or something like that. He wrote a book called Eat Smarter. So he has a podcast, and I listen to that. I have like financial podcasts that I listen to. I think one is called like Money Catchers or something like that. Like I have a list, and then I want to shout out some podcasts that are like
yes,
or like us that are growing. I like to support other podcasts. So there's Real Queens Talk podcast that I listen to.
Jollof and Collard Greens. That's our brother podcast. We've recorded 2-3 episodes with them so far.
Yeah. So
and shout out to the Beeline.
Yes.
Oh, that's Brian.
Now.
Yes. And then I'm gonna say I also like listening to there's this one podcaster. I cannot remember her name. I haven't watched her podcast in a while. But hers is like a murder mystery podcast. Ooh. So she does makeup as she's telling.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Murder mystery and makeup, I believe it's called.
Yes, murder mystery and makeup. Yeah. Yes, so that's I listened to that one. I haven't listened to that one in a minute, but I used to like really love listening to that one. I'm always randomly like going through listening to different podcasts just to like kind of see like, hey, what are they talking about? Or hey, what is going on here? So it's like that's what I do at work. I just have my earbuds and listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks. That's like
yeah. Like I also wanted to say I like to listen to How Married Are You? That's and then what was another one that I like to listen to? Was it shoot. Nope, it's gone. Never mind, I thought I had it.
Oh yeah, there's another one called Dear Future Wife. I like listening to that one too.
Okay. So we've got definitely a lot of recommendations from the two of you, so that's good. So we got to let people know about your podcast, though. We have something called Shameless Self-Promotion, and this is where you can let everybody know where they can find out more about your show.
Shameless self-promotion.
Okay.
Okay, so you can find our show on a whole bunch of different streaming platforms. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube.
Anchor.
We're on well, it's now called Spotify for Podcasts. That's what that is now.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
There's we're on Apple. Amazon just extended us an invitation, so we'll probably be on that really soon.
Yep, I saw that. Google Podcasts.
Yep.
Stitcher, yep.
And you can always find us directly from the source. That's www.allegedlycredible.com. You can also follow us on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok at Allegedly Credible. We also started, if you're in the Jersey area, we definitely started planning events. We did our first event called the Creative Hive. That was in September of 2022. We had a whole bunch of artists, a whole bunch of performers, and just a whole bunch of poets come and join together and just share their work. And we created the Creative Hive magazine. Just so you know, we do plan on having another event like that in September, another Creative Hive. If you want to be featured in the magazine, please hit us up at allegedlycredible at gmail.com. Or if you would like to participate, you could participate at, or you can email us at allegedlycredible@gmail.com. Yes. Or directly contact us on the website, www.allegedlycredible.com. Also, we have another event coming up very soon in July called the Holistic Haven. If you ever listen to our show, you're going to know that both of us are very into health and fitness. So with this, we will be able to have people come get mini massages, mini facials, get a little photo shoot, anything health related to boost your energy and who you are. We're going to have a whole bunch of health vendors. If you would like to be a vendor, again, email us at allegedlycredible@gmail.com or our website. If you would like to just buy tickets or get more information on it, you can definitely check out our website. All right.
Hey, Danielle and Melanie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Now it's time for Sherpa Samples. If you've got a podcast you'd like us to sample, contact us and we'll mention your name on the show.
Oh, and those dulcet tones can only mean one of two things. Either it's 3-bean salad night at the Sherpa Chalet, or it's time for Sherpa Samples. I'm going to go with Sherpa Samples. And this is where I talk about some podcasts that are on the podcast charts from all over the place and just let you know about it. It's not my job to review them, but I just want to let you know what you might be missing, and maybe it's something that you might be interested in. We've all got different tastes, of course. And I got to tell you, the 10 that I listen to are certainly very diverse. So I'm sure there might be something that you might be interested in. And if there's a podcast that you like to listen to that I haven't spoken about yet, let me know. Message me on Sherpalution on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and I will check that podcast out. And you listening, maybe not you with the hat, but you listening, you will get mentioned on the show. How about that? Big time. Wow. Holy cow. Okay, so let's get talking now. A big fan, Aaron Mehnke, he had a podcast called Lore. He also has another one called Cabinet of Curiosities, and the episode that I listened to was about owning your own island, and there are some really interesting stories behind that. Fans of Tom Segura, who maybe listen to the podcast Two Bears, One Cave, he also has another podcast with his wife, Christina P., and this is called Your Mom's House. The humor in it is it's a little crude. I guess that's probably the nicest way to put it. Maybe exercise a little judgment if you're listening to it around small children. I also listened to The Flophouse, which is hosted by three guys, and they're from Maximum Fun, which is the network that hosts the McElroy brothers, who do My Brother and Me, and all those other McElroy podcasts. And it's basically three guys talking about really bad movies. Sort of like How Did This Get Made, but a little bit different, I guess we could say. That's probably the easiest way to put that. The episode that I listened to for this podcast, they were doing like a competition between two of the hosts to see if they could guess the appropriate titles and what fit and what didn't fit. And it was neat. It was kind of fun. The Girl in the Blue Mustang is a true crime podcast from NBC Dateline. And it is about the murder of a young lady named Michelle O'Keefe. Comedy Bang Bang is hosted by Scott Ackerman, who I believe is associated with a show called Mr. Show. And it's an interesting kind of interview show. There's some improvised comedy, some characters on it, and some actual interviews. And in this episode, he spoke to actor Jason Alexander and his business partner, Peter Tilden, who hosts a podcast called Really? No, Really? And I subscribe to this podcast. It's enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. They talk to people about things that make you say, really? No, really? Plain and simple. And they definitely were having a lot of fun on the show. And also, Really No Really is a fun podcast to check out. So that's a little bonus recommendation for you right there. The Bible in a Year is hosted by Father Mike Schmitz. Father Mike Schmitz also hosts Catechism in a Year. And he does readings from the Bible, obviously. And he's got a very soothing voice. I've noticed that. And if you are a spiritual person and you need to hear some readings from the Bible, this is a very popular podcast to check out. Critical Role is another Dungeons and Dragons podcast, and it is hosted by a bunch of voiceover actors. And I think my best piece of advice when listening to this podcast is maybe you might want to see their YouTube channel when you're watching it. Because listening to the actual podcast, it was kind of hard to tell what was going on. So it's probably got more of a visual element that would help you along. So I was completely lost, folks. But I know that it's very popular, too, with the Dungeons and Dragons crowd. Our last three were people tied up in reality shows and on social media. So The Vile Files is hosted by Nick Vile. And Nick Vile was The Bachelor on American television. He was talking about, yes, we know, The Bachelor, and here we go again, Rebels. Vanderpump Rules. When is this show going to get out of my head? If you listened last week, you know exactly what I was talking about. A little bit of ranting about reality TV going on Rebels for me. Sorry. But yeah, it's back, and Nick Vile was there to talk about all of that stuff. So, but I think there are a lot of episodes where they're not talking about reality TV. He does talk about other things too. This just happened to be the episode that I was listening to. Date Yourself Instead is hosted by Liz Boss, who is a TikToker who hosted her own self-love show and has a podcast on it. Some of the language might be a little strong for young children again, so keep that in mind. But it's relationship advice, I guess. Just how to get over things. And the episode that I heard was about people in toxic relationships. And finally, there was Matt and Abby, and they were also TikTokers and I think YouTubers as well with the Unplanned podcast. And I believe they are a married couple. And I don't know where they live. I'm not sure. I think Matt is a surfer or something like that. And they talked about cancel culture and getting canceled and some of the things that they did. But I guess they're still around and they are still very popular. So if you like influencers, those last two are podcasts that you might want to check out. So there you have it. Nice and easy. See, I didn't do too much ranting this week. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. And while I'm patting myself on the back, you know what we have to do. We have to head into the outro. Let's move on to the outro, shall we?
We're on that internet thingy at sherpollution.com.
A very special thanks to Danielle and Melanie of Allegedly Credible. Make sure you check out their podcast or their YouTube channel if you want to see their lovely faces. A real treat having them here, and thank you to you for spending a little time and checking the show out. And you know you can always hear the show on your favorite podcast apps or on my website, sherpollution.com. There's a lot going on. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Guess what? You have the opportunity to enter a contest. All you need to do, and this is easy, folks, really easy, I promise you. All you need to do is leave a nice review on Apple Podcasts, and once I get 100 reviews, we're going to have a little drawing, and someone is going to win free podcast swag from the T-Sherpa shop. Your choice. I will send it to you personally. How about that? Who else offers you that for writing a nice review? Nobody, I say. Nobody. Just me. I don't know. Maybe somebody else. I don't know. But we're not looking at them right now. So anyway, make sure you write a nice review and check it out. Okay? And we hope that we see you next time We're halfway through the season, and I don't want you to miss 1 second more. So make sure you tune in every Wednesday where new episodes come out. And until then, Lord Mr. Bruce and I will wish you a happy Viva la Sherpalution. We will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Oh. Yell, come back now, you hear?